Hey guys, Denise with Lazy K Homestead. Well, I hope you're having a great day. It's a beautiful fall day here in Tennessee, and it kind of made me in the mood for some fall baked goods. So I'm going to go ahead and try some apple cider baked donuts. I haven't made donuts in a long time, so bear with me on this. I found the recipe on Taste of Home, and I kind of tweaked it a little bit. I added some spices that I like for fall. I added some cardamom and some ginger, and it has nutmeg and cinnamon. So I kind of made this my own recipe. It also calls for cake flour, but I'm going to show you a trick that you can make your own cake flour if you don't have that on hand. So the first step, and there's a few steps in this, but it's not a complicated recipe. We want to reduce down our apple cider vinegar. So let me show you what we're going to do. Okay, so what we're going to do is I've got 1.5 cups of apple cider in a small saucepan. I'm going to bring it to a boil, a rolling boil for 1 minute. Then I'm going to turn it down on about a little more than medium because you want to keep it at a simmer. And we want to reduce this down to a 1/2 cup. Now that's going to take anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes, and what it's going to do is intensify that apple cider flavor. And it's going to become thicker, and it's going to probably deepen the color. So you want to make sure when this is happening that you do have a 1/2 cup in there because you need that for the recipe. It does kind of go fast. I can see it's already starting to come to a boil. Boy, it smells so good. So in the meantime, I'm going to let it, it's come to a boil, so I'm going to go ahead and turn it down. And in the meantime, I'm going to get together the rest of my ingredients, and I will be back. Okay, guys, I'm back. So, I got all my ingredients together. I've got my cooled 1/2 cup of apple cider. See how dark it is? It almost looks like molasses, but it's not that thick. So what I need for this recipe is 2 cups of cake flour. Now, you can use all-purpose if you want to, but you have to sift it. But I'm going to go ahead and show you a really neat substitute for cake flour. You need exactly 14 tablespoons of all-purpose flour and 2 tablespoons of cornstarch. Let me go ahead and bring this up a little bit so you can see the top of my head. Okay. All right. So what you do is, you have to make sure that these are level tablespoons. So what you do is you have I already did some, 14 tablespoons plus 2 tablespoons of cornstarch makes about a little over 1 cup, but I need 2 cups, so I got to do this again. So you go ahead and you either have your sifter or your sifter strainer, and that's what I'm going to go ahead and use. So you do 14 of these in here, and let's see, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and yes, I can count. I can hear Willis now. He's out in Colorado. Well, actually, he was out in Colorado, Utah, and now he's in Iowa and coming back. And then he did go all the way out to Idaho, too. Okay, so that's 14 tablespoons of all-purpose flour. And then I've got cornstarch here. And you want exactly 2 tablespoons, and you want to go ahead and level that too with your knife. Cornstarch kind of sticks. I went ahead and put everything in bowls so it looked nicer, and you didn't have to see me trying to get it out of the packages. But if I weren't doing a video, I would just do it with the packages. Okay, so I'll set all that stuff back there, and you just go ahead and sift this through. Or like I said, if you've got your sifter, go ahead and use that. I would have used that if I was home by myself and not making a video, but it does make noise. You can also do this. You can see it's sifting, and what it's doing is aerating this and making it really nice and fluffy. And it is putting it all together. All right, so I'll go ahead and set that back here. Okay, so now we want to measure out 2 cups. Okay, I'll get my dry ingredients together. So we've got 1 cup, and then we'll have 2 cups. Go ahead and get a little bit more in here. Just to get to 2 cups. All right. All right, there's 2 cups. All right, we'll set that over there. And now we'll go ahead and put the rest of our dry ingredients together, except the sugar. The sugar is going to go in with the wet. And that is so it's not so granular. It kind of melts with all the wet. Okay, so what we're going to need now is we've got our flour. We've got baking powder, and I need 2 teaspoons of baking powder. Let me just double check. Yep, 2 teaspoons. Make sure that your baking powder is not out of date. And this is Clabber Girl. And you can check on the bottom. And this is good till December of this year, 2022. All right, so we'll do 2 teaspoons. Go ahead and put it in here. All right. And then we've got our spices, and I already have them measured out. I've got 1½ teaspoons of cinnamon, 1/8 of a teaspoon of cardamom, 1/8 of a teaspoon of nutmeg, and 1/8 of a teaspoon of ginger. Now, like I said in earlier, I went ahead and I kind of tweaked my spices because I like the cardamom in there. So, and the nutmeg and ginger are pretty strong. So I went ahead and just made 1/8 of a teaspoon of all of them. So it comes out really good. Okay, and then I want to put my salt in here, and I need 1 teaspoon of salt. And we'll just whisk this together, and we'll set it aside. So you're just whisking it together, kind of fluffing it up. And of course you're aerating that flour again. So that's great. Okay, so we'll go ahead and set that aside. Now we're going to go ahead and put together our wet ingredients. So in another bowl, we're going to go ahead and we're going to put our reduced apple cider vinegar. Excuse me, not apple cider vinegar. Forget that, apple cider. Sorry. So there it is. We're going to pour it in the bowl. And then we're going to add to that our milk. And this is 1/2 cup of milk. Now this is goat's milk, and it was frozen, and that's what I had on hand. And so that's what we are going to use. I'm just going to mix it up a little bit. All right, that's 1/2 cup. Pour that in there. And then we are going to put in our sugars. Now our sugars are 1/2 cup of brown sugar and 1/4 cup of white sugar. So I'm just going to go ahead and put that in there. I'm going to whisk that around a little bit just to get it wet and incorporated. It'll help melt all that sugar and not be so granular, because you don't want gritty donuts, that's for sure. Okay, and to this we're going to add an egg, 1 large egg. Go ahead and get that going. Whisk that around nice so it's all nicely incorporated. 2 tablespoons of melted butter. My house is just at 70 degrees, so got a little bit, not quite melted, but it'll work. Okay, so we got that in there. Whisk will get it nice and incorporated, in 2 teaspoons of vanilla. All right, and I always go back and just double check, make sure I've got everything from the recipe, and the recipe will be in the description All right. Okay. All right, so that's all nicely whisked together. Now what you're going to do is, let me put this back here so it's not in my way. I need a bigger kitchen. It's big though. To your dry ingredients that you set aside, you're going to go ahead and you're going to add the wet ingredients, okay? So all that's in there. And I'm going to get a spoon, a large spoon, and I'm going to go ahead and you just stir this until it's all together. You don't mix it too hard, but just making sure it's all incorporated. And it smells so good. Oh my goodness, it smells like fall. It's, I told Willis this year, he's like, oh, I can't wait for fall, because he loves fall and early spring. And I love spring and summer. But I have to tell you, these fall spices do get you in the mood for the crisp mornings. Okay. All right, that's pretty well incorporated there. Making sure all the flour is mixed together. I just kind of scrape up the sides a little bit. All right. Boy, it smells so yummy. I know I keep saying that, but boy, does it. Okay. So let me go ahead. If you hear my washer going, it is just in the other room, so sorry about that. So now what you're going to do is you're going to get your gallon size Ziploc bag, and mine's not exactly Ziploc because I think that's a brand name, but you put it in a bowl like this because you're going to be pouring this mixture right here into this Ziploc bag and using it as a pastry bag. Okay, so you got to kind of be careful doing this because it can be a mess. All right, so I'm going to pour it in. And then I'm going to go ahead and scrape the sides down because you want all this goodies, all this yum. Man, I could lick the bowl. I'm not going to, though. All right, so I'll set that aside. And then you're going to go ahead and seal this, getting the air out of it the best you can. I'm not going to try to touch any of the batter down there. Okay, so you've got it in here. Just making sure it's all nice and sealed. Okay, there it is. It snapped for me. Now this is supposed to make about 17 donuts, 16 or 17. So my donut pans, let me just wipe this off real fast. I got a little bit of flour on here. Or 6 donuts in each. So you can make this in batters. You can double this recipe. It does really well. Okay, so what I'm going to do, kind of come down here and hold it like a pastry bag. Okay, now you want to hold it up like this when you're cutting it, because if you hold it down and cut it, you're going to have this batter everywhere. Okay, so you want to cut it about a ½ inch. Okay, so there it is. So I'm going to go ahead and flip it back over, and we are going to go ahead and put this in here. All right, about halfway. Now I'm holding this because I probably should have cut my pastry bag a little bit less than a ½ inch, but that is what the recipe said, and I knew when I made them before that I should have cut it a little bit less. So maybe a ½ inch when you cut your bag. But you're filling these donut cavities, for the lack of a better word, about halfway up. Just like if you were using muffin pans, about halfway up. And I have greased my pan with oil. You can spray it with your spray, whatever you desire. You can put butter in there, but I chose veg oil today. Okay. This is a pretty liquidy batter, that's just how this recipe is. Okay. And these are baked donuts, so they're not quite as fattening as a fried donut. And they're, of course, not a yeast donut. So if you've never had a baked donut, you'll be in for a treat because they're kind of cakey and they're yummy. Okay, I've got my oven set on 375 and we're going to go ahead and put them in for 8 to 10 minutes. So I'll be back in a few as soon as they're done and on to the next step. Okay guys, it's been 8 minutes exactly. I set the alarm for 8 minutes and I went ahead and inserted a toothpick. And they are done. Look how pretty they are. Aren't they gorgeous? So I'm going to go ahead and put them on this cooling rack. I'm going to let them cool for about 10 minutes. And then we will go ahead and coat them with cinnamon sugar. I just think they're awesome. So what we're doing for the cinnamon sugar is we have 5 tablespoons of melted butter, 2 to 3 teaspoons of cinnamon, or if you want something else like ginger or nutmeg, whatever you want, but I'm going to use cinnamon because I'm a cinnamon lover, and sugar, cinnamon, and butter. So let me get that together and I'll be right back. How super easy are these donuts? There's a few steps, but it's nothing that really takes a long time. Like 3 steps that you have to do, but look at them. Aren't they? Oh, they look so yummy. Oh my goodness. I'm really tempted to eat these, but I'm going to hold off. It did make 15 donuts, so that's great. I've got the other 3 in the oven. But anyways, you guys have a great day. Happy fall, y'all, from Lazy K Homestead. Bye!